from your producers as well, and you very ably indicate that you believe it's a system that's encouraged productivity and made the poultry ecosystem the best in the world. That's why we can ship all over the world without barriers, that we could literally feed everybody chicken all over the world.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I yield back.
Mr. Palazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here today. I'll jump right into some questions. One's dealing with food safety. Twice Congress has legislated the transfer of food safety inspection responsibility from the Food and Drug Administration to the USDA Food Safety Inspection Service, once during a democratically controlled Congress and once during a Republican Congress. Yet the budget submitted by the administration yesterday proposes to reverse course, change the law, and move back to an FDA inspection program which really provided little, if any, food safety inspection at all. In fact, this very same budget proposal highlights the work FSIS has done over the past year ensuring product quality, specifically highlighting rejection, recalls, and removal of product totaling well over 500,000 pounds of catfish that otherwise would have found its way onto the tables of American families throughout the U.S. So my obvious question here, Mr. Secretary, is why is the administration reversing course?
I think, again, this budget may have been constructed prior to Secretary Tom Price and the FDA administrator and I having conversations of how we do a bright line delineation over food inspection. I think USDA is rightfully proud of its food safety inspection system. And someone mentioned, Dr. Harris mentioned hot dogs. It's kind of curious to me that USDA is responsible for the safety of the wiener, but if you put it in a bun, that becomes FDA's responsibility. So globally, I think we've got some real opportunities here to delineate in a bright line way who does what best. And I think Secretary Price and I, who served in the Georgia State Senate together, have begun some top-level conversations about that, of how we approach that decision, which hopefully will be reflected later in the budget, over how do we determine who does what and who does what best. So I appreciate your comments about the catfish inspection program. I know there's a lot of interest, as I met with senators about that as well. And once again, I'm not quite sure of the ideology of the proposal in that way. I think to really, to their credit, I think it was, again, a duplication issue where they viewed this was a duplication in that where USDA typically does not have fish inspection, and it seemed to be moved over. So while we have poultry and meat, don't have fish, and I think they viewed that as a duplication.
Yeah, I've heard that as well, and one of the reasons why we took it away from FDA because they were failing to provide food safety inspections if they were inspecting the product at all. And it's our job, and I think there's several people in agreement on this committee that, you know, if there's going to be things that are going to be imported from abroad into American markets, we need to make sure it's safe for consumption. And I believe your Food Safety Inspection Service Group is doing a fantastic job, and we'd like to see it continue to remain under USDA to protect the American families and what they're going to be served on their kitchen table.
I appreciate the compliments. I think you'll get a shot at that.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, moving to my second question, I believe my state and many other states are facing some real struggles in staffing from their local Farm Service Agency offices. And in January, the administration announced a federal hiring freeze during the transition. On April 12th, OMB announced the freeze was lifted. However, it's my understanding that USDA still has the hiring restriction in place. And can you update the committee on the status of the department staffing plan to ensure that customer service is fully achieved at the local level, as you referenced in your testimony?
Certainly. Actually, that customer service was one of the reasons that I chose to realign our NRCS as well as that with FSA, with our crop insurance, our RMA people, for a one-stop shop where really to give a critical mass and economy of scale. For instance, if in smaller communities, if one FSA had 2 people and NRCS had 2 people, they may be kind of in the same building, but they really weren't co-located. So just if one person's out or some child sick or something like that, we want more people there in order to help that. I have not had an opportunity to drill down on all the offices where we have vacancies and where we have deficiencies regarding our farm production credit customer service, but that's a huge goal of ours. The other huge goal is to get our databases to communicate. You may know from your customers and your constituents that our NRCS database and our FSA database don't really talk together well. They have to go through a bridging program, and our farmers are frustrated by having to fill out the 20-page application in one place, walk through the next door, and have to fill out almost a similar, identical 20-page application for NRCS programs. So the goal of co-locating and is more than just physical. It's heart, soul, and spirit of customer service, because that customer comes in there, that producer comes in there, and they just want to sign up for the programs they qualify for, and we want them to be able to say, if an FSA employee says, here, you report all this, these are the programs, but you may want to think about your farm plan. Let me introduce you to the NRCS person right here behind me, and to do that. But the staffing level is something that I've not been able to get to yet, and how that works. As you well know, my confirmation was April 25th, even after that hiring freeze was lifted. So we're evaluating the best use of our personnel across the department.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. I yield back.
Oh, Mr. Young.